All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about the mind of a trader and really uncover the one skill that separates the consistent winners from everyone else. And here's a hint. It has nothing to do with a perfect indicator. It's all about mastering your inner market. So think about this for a second. We spend all this time analyzing charts, obsessing over news, looking at economic data. But what if the single greatest threat to your trading account isn't any of that stuff? And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? The real battlefield isn't the chart on your screen, it's the 6 inches between your ears. Because it's your own unchecked emotions that can completely torpedo even the most brilliant strategy. Okay, so let's be really clear about this. Your true opponent isn't another trader or some big institution. It's that impulsive, emotional part of yourself that gets triggered by the absolute chaos of the market. Does that sound familiar? I bet it does. If you've ever felt that gut punch of a trade going south, or you've revenge traded out of pure frustration, you're not alone. We've all been there. The difference is, the pros learned how to stop letting those feelings call the shots. All right, let's pull back the curtain on the two main villains in this story. They're sneaky. They disguise themselves as logic, or maybe even ambition, but trust me, their real goal is to completely derail your plan. And this is what's so wild about how these two work. Fear isn't just about losing money, it's about the pain of being wrong. That's why it tells you to take profits way too early. And greed? It's not just about winning. It's about proving you're a genius. That's why it tells you to just hold on, convinced you can't possibly lose. They're really just two sides of the same ego coin, and both are absolutely terrible for your account. This quote just nails it. A trader operates with a plan, with probabilities. A gambler operates on hope and fantasy. And greed is the emotion that shoves you from one camp to the other. And that is an incredibly dangerous place to be. Now, here's the cool part, the actual science behind why this happens. When you see a huge red candle wiping out your profit, your brain doesn't see a financial risk. It sees a tiger. Seriously. Your amygdala, your lizard brain, floods your system with stress hormones, and your rational prefrontal cortex, the part that made your trading plan, gets completely shut down. And the crazy part is, these biases team up on you. It's a destructive combo. First, FOMO convinces you to chase a trade you know you missed. Then confirmation bias kicks in, making you see only the evidence that you were right while you totally ignore all the warning signs. And finally, loss aversion basically glues your finger to the mouse, preventing you from cutting that loser because the pain of accepting the loss feels way worse than the hope of it turning around. It's a perfect storm of self-sabotage. So, if emotion is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's not some new indicator or a secret algorithm, it's discipline. This is your armor. This is your actual edge in the market. And you really need to let this sink in. A fantastic strategy on paper is completely worthless if you can't execute it when the pressure is on. Discipline is what turns that plan into actual profit. It's the bridge that gets you from theory to reality, especially when your emotions are screaming at you to do the exact opposite. And look, here's the real secret to all this. Emotionally strong traders don't rely on willpower, because willpower, it runs out. Instead, they build habits that basically run on autopilot. They prepare their minds, they take scheduled breaks to reset, and they have a non-negotiable shutdown time. These aren't just nice suggestions, they are the absolute bedrock of a professional trading career. All of this builds into what you can think of as your discipline ecosystem. Think of it like this. Your rules, they're the non-negotiable laws that protect your capital at all costs. Your routines are the daily processes that keep everything running smoothly. And your rituals, those are the small, deliberate actions that ground you emotionally, training your brain to get into a calm, focused state right before you click the button. Okay, that's all great in theory, but what about when you're in the thick of it? When a trade is live, the money's on the line, and your heart is pounding out of your chest. That's where real-time emotional control becomes absolutely critical. This is a tool you can use literally right now. It's called box breathing, and it's used by Navy SEALs to stay calm under the most extreme pressure imaginable. This simple 4-part process physically calms your nervous system, yanking you out of that fight-or-flight mode and bringing your rational mind back online. Look, every trader knows what a financial stop-loss is, but the pros, they live and die by their mental stop-loss. This is their emotional circuit breaker, their emergency kill switch. The second they feel that urge for revenge, or they catch themselves about to break a rule,
It's a non-negotiable signal to shut it all down. This protects more than their capital. It protects their mind for tomorrow.
Now let's be super clear here. You are never going to eliminate fear or greed. You can't. They're part of being human. The real skill is creating a little gap, a little space between the feeling and your action. And in that space, you choose a thoughtful response instead of an impulsive reaction. So when you put all of this together, it leads to a huge shift. It's not just about learning a few new tricks. It's about forging a completely new identity for yourself as a trader. You see, the gambler gets tossed around by every emotional wave in the market. They're totally reactive. But the strategist is proactive. They operate from a plan. They're driven by discipline and logic. This isn't just a different approach. It's a completely different way of being in the market. And that is where real, lasting confidence comes from. It isn't born from some huge winning trade. It's forged in the daily, sometimes boring practice of just showing up, following your rules, and executing your plan, whether you win or lose. That consistency is what builds an unshakable trust in your process, not just in random luck. So let me leave you with this final thought. You cannot control the market. You can't control its chaos, its randomness, or its sudden moves. The only variable in this entire game that you can ever truly control is yourself. And in the end, that's the only edge that actually matters.